What's chirping, crickets? This is Kim from Kim Takes On. I'm Kim. Hi. And this is my co-producer, co-aider and abetter, and general mischief maker and chief of wackiness, Terrence the Wonder Duck. Terrence says hello. And he hopes you're all having a great week and are having a wonderful week coming up, hopefully, as well. Hopefully up here it will be a little cooler because Massachusetts just went through a bit of a heat wave and it sucks. I'm sorry. I am not a spring summer person. I am a fall winter person, like you couldn't tell from the fact that I don't think I've had a tan since Carter was president. So, and that actually leads us into what I'm going to talk about today. The 70s. Oh, the 70s. I know a lot of people out there remember the 70s very fondly. What they can remember of it. They always say if you can't remember a decade, you had a great time. But I was just a wee tot in the 70s. I was a little doe-eyed innocent back then. Stop laughing. But there's a lot of things about the 70s that I do remember. There are a lot of things about the 70s. I got to be real honest. I don't remember because I was a child. You know, I was a very young child. Most of the stuff to do with politics, nothing. Couldn't tell you a thing that I remember from that. Vietnam, nope. Didn't know anything about Vietnam until I was probably in double digits of age. I really didn't know anything about the war and what it had done to people and stuff like that at that point. The only thing I really remember about politics was I remember like the early stuff, the Watergate stuff. I remember my father being absolutely livid about Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon. And I had no idea what any of that meant. I had no idea what a pardon was. I barely knew who Richard Nixon was. And to me, Gerald Ford was that guy that fell down the steps to go out of an airplane. Back when people used to get out of. I have never gotten out of a plane like that. You see it in movies and you see it in some like old time shots of where they bring the stairs up to the plane and people walk down. I'm like, I have never been on a plane like that. It's always been going through the tunnel thing. But I remember my dad being livid about that pardon, which again, no idea what a pardon was. But there's lots of other things from the 70s that I do remember. And I'd like to talk about some of them today. Some of them have to do with music, and one of them is going to be very interesting to talk about because Terrence and I both agree it's time to be honest about certain things. Bare our proverbial souls, if you will. Shout out to Dusty Rhodes. Miss you, Big Dust. But the 70s. Now, everybody who remembers being in the 70s also remembers all of the fads and the fashions and the what have yous and stuff like that. Now, as I mentioned, I was a young child during the 70s, and I wasn't old enough to wear platform shoes or have a leisure suit. Not that I've ever seen a girl wearing a leisure suit, or flared pants or any of that other stuff. I knew teenagers and grown-ups wore stuff like that. Even back then, I was like, platform shoes are just, I don't get them. I mean, certain people can wear them, like the members of Kiss. And those were platform shoes. I mean, those things look like they would attack you, especially jeans. But every time I look at platform shoes, I have this, it's really weird because they're complete opposite ends of the spectrum. If I look at a platform shoe and I look at stiletto heels, I have the same reaction of, oh, my ankles hurt just looking at this. And I know if I wore either of those things, I would probably fall on my face and break something. I like looking at fancy shoes, but I'm confident enough in myself that I know when I would make a colossal jackass out of myself. And I can't wear shoes that have a heel that looks like if you sneezed on them, it would snap. And platform shoes are completely the opposite of that. but they also looked to me like they were just so big and clunky. I would just think that going downstairs would be hazardous. But I mean, if you could get away with doing it, get away with doing it, I guess, you know. The leisure suit look. I mean, I don't I don't get it. I mean, I know that it was the leisure suits to me always seem to be that guy. I mean, there's a reason there was a video game called Leisure Suit Larry. You know, it's, you know, leisure suits were that guy, the guy that did stuff like, hey, babe, you know, and like stuff like that, you know, like, and had like the really weird mustache that you were kind of like, dude, what are you trying to do? And they like, you know, opened up their shirt really wide to show off their chest hair. I know, I'm a bitch. I know, but I'm a cute one, so that should count for something. But one of the things that I do remember fashion-wise about the 70s was something that I actually owned at one point, a mood ring. For a while, mood rings were, you know, anyone and everyone. If you didn't have a mood ring, you were nobody, even in grade school. And I had a mood ring. Now, the whole thing of mood rings, allegedly, was that the crystals in the ring would change color in regards to what your mood was. If you were happy, if you were sad, if you were angry, if you were nervous, you know, whatever, the ring would change to that color. And oh my goodness, that's the mood that I'm in. It's magic. No, it's not. It's chemicals and certain crystals, I guess. And it's not really going by your mood. It's going by the change in your body temperature, because 5th grade science class lesson coming up. When you are happy or upset or angry or whatever, your body temperature is going to change. And that is what the ring was reading. It's like a lie detector test. Lie detector tests do not measure whether or not you are telling a lie. They measure your stress level. Because most people, if they are trying to lie and they're not good at it, they're going to get stressful and the little needle thing is going to go all wacky. If you have someone that is very good at lying, you can say, Senator, please take a seat. Okay, all right. Yep. Terrence called it. That's the one political joke for the show. Or if you have someone, I've always wondered if you gave a lie detector test to someone who was, you know, mentally on another, you know, plane, and they said like the sky is blue, and you ask them, is the sky blue, and they say no, the sky is green. If they really believe the sky is green, would the thing not move? I don't know. I just think that's interesting. But yeah, mood rings really didn't work on your mood, and it wasn't really magic. It was just science, sort of. I remember when you got the mood ring, they would give you you get a little card with it, so you could like look at the ring and look at the little card and see, well, the mood ring says I'm upset. You just dropped your homework down a flight of stairs and the dog ate it. Yeah, you're probably upset. My mood ring that I had, anybody want to guess what color my mood ring always was? Anybody? Bueller? Yep, my mood ring was always black. Second it went on, boom, black. And I was fine with that because I thought it looked neat. So I was just kind of like, okay, this is my mood ring and it says I'm in a bad mood or I'm down or I'm upset about something. Gee, I can't think why, you know. But anyway, so the thing is they didn't last very long. They keep trying to bring them back, which blows my mind because I'm like, people don't really still buy this, do they? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wear crystals sometimes because I think they look neat, you know. Do I think they can give off vibes and stuff? I don't know. I can't really, you know, I can't say, no, they absolutely don't, but I can't say, yes, they absolutely do. All I know is when I wear them, I look fabulous. And that's all that matters to me. So if you want to wear a mood ring, go ahead and wear it. If you look good in it, it makes you feel happy, who cares? But other things that came out of the 70s, are things that I really don't get, still don't get to this day. Streaking. I have never understood the appeal of this. Now, I know people went streaking back in the 60s and probably beyond that. You probably had some idiot all the way back in the days when people wore animal fur that decided to just rip everything off and run around in their wherewithals, and all the other cavemen are going, what the hell is Og doing? He just killed that saber-toothed tiger. What happened? But for some reason, streaking took on much more of a prominence in the 70s, also partially because of, I believe, the Ray Stevens song, The Streak, which is actually really funny. I mean, if you feel like that's something you need to do and you're willing to take the risks involved, don't do it. I mean, I'm not going to be like, yeah, sure, go ahead. It's your life. No, don't do that. But for one thing, I mean, there's obvious shortcomings that you might not want to reveal to the rest of the world. At least not like that. Usually one person at a time, man. No, sorry. I mean, I know women went streaking too. The weird thing is, anytime I've ever seen pictures of women streaking, there's usually a whole bunch of women. Usually when it's men, it's just one or maybe two. I don't know what that says. I'd rather not dwell on it, but there it is. And the thing about streaking that I've always been like, the cons outweigh the pros with streaking, I would think. The pro being, I guess you're expressing yourself. You might be expressing the fact that nature shortchanged you. Oops. Sorry. But the cons really seem to outweigh the pros. The cons being that everybody can see that, they can see that you're not going to be the next star of adult entertainment, for one thing. Also, there's the whole fact of the police, especially if you decide to do this someplace, public, like some kind of a concert or, sports event or something like that. The police are going to probably catch you, and they're probably not going to be very pleased with you. And they're probably going to show that displeasure by clocking you upside the head several times or other places. And usually when they catch the person streaking is by running behind said person and tackling them to the ground. I don't know about you guys, but I would rather not be Starkers and be thrown violently to the ground. Any ground. Much less ground where your naughty bits might come in contact with pavement, astroturf, anything that might chafe, cut, scrape, or, otherwise damage parts that you might want to show off to somebody else that would be impressed by them. Because believe me, the rest of us aren't. I've never seen somebody streaking and been like, it's never happened. Probably because guys who are that confident in themselves don't feel the need. I don't know. Thankfully, it seems to have not been something that's been carried over that much. I mean, I'm sure it still happens because people are stupid. But doing things like that nowadays, you can probably wind up on a registry somewhere. And so I really wouldn't recommend it at all. Not even like if your buddies are drunk and they're like, hey, let's do this. Woo! I wouldn't, no. And of course, the 70s also gave us some amazing films. I've already done a whole show on Star Wars and on the fact that film really changed my life. It changed the direction of my life, which, I'm not even I can't even go. I don't want to have to wax poetic about it again, because I'm sure if you've already seen it, you've seen it. But there were other films that came out in the 70s, most of which I had to wait till later in my life to see, because as I mentioned, 70s, little girl, can't go see movies like The Godfather. Although I did do something, and I'm going to confess a naughty little secret. Not that kind of naughty secret, calm down. One time, my mother took us to the movies a lot. Before I got old enough to go to the movies by myself, my mother would take me or my sister, or both of us, to the movies. Mostly, I think, to just get us out of the house and get her out of the house away from my dad. You don't want to hear about that. It's cool. Don't worry about it. But the 70s were also the time when a lot of Disney movies weren't good. Disney was mostly doing a lot of live action movies, and they weren't great. I mean, some of them were, and some of them were not at all. And one time, my mom took me to the movies, and we went to the general cinema in the town where I lived, Saugus. And they, as I mentioned in my Star Wars show, they had just two theaters. Back when cinema had only one screen or two screens. Yes, I know. I know this is blowing some people's minds, but it's the truth. And one of the theaters was showing Jaws. And the other theater was showing The Apple Dumpling Gang, which is a Disney movie starring Tim Conway and Don Knotts and Bill Bixby. It's a comedy, western, so on and so forth. So we're watching this movie, and me, little inquisitive me, who's heard all the buzz from all the adults and the teenagers around me and stuff like that about Jaws and how it's so scary and this and the other thing. I do not want to sit there and watch this movie about goofy cowboys and stuff. I'm bored out of my mind. So I get up and, go to the bathroom, and I go out of the bathroom and I kind of look around. And now this is, like I said, in the 70s, back in the 70s, where you could let a kid go to the bathroom by themselves in a movie theater and nobody would freak out and call Child Protective Services on you. And so I'm by myself, and I'm just kind of standing there, and I'm thinking, because the movie theaters, the actual, theaters themselves, they were really close to each other. Nobody's looking at me, from the popcorn people to the people getting tickets to the, no one is watching me. And this little voice in the back of my head that I listen to entirely too much sometimes is like, nobody's looking, sneak in. And I was like, I can't do that. Mom will catch me. How's your mom going to catch you? She thinks you're still in the bathroom. So I look around a couple more times, and then whoop, right into the theater for Jaws, I sneak. And I'm standing there at the back of the theater, and the part I walked in on was the part where Brody and Mrs. Brody and Matt Hooper are sitting around the table talking about sharks. And I'm standing there like, what the? There's no sharks. Nobody's getting eaten. There's just grown-ups talking. Where's the sharks? How is this scary? This is stupid. I'm leaving. And I walked back out of the theater, walked back into the theater I was supposed to be in, sat next to my mom, and just kind of was like, For the rest of the movie, I was really pissed. Of course, I've been lucky enough to see Jaws in the theater a couple of times since. And yeah, it's a great movie. It's an amazing film, actually, considering the times and considering that they went through a lot of craziness to just get the damn thing filmed. Great movie, one of the best. Also in the 70s was another science fiction film that I was really excited about. I mean, I was like, when Star Wars came out, of course, when Star Wars came out, we had no idea who these characters were, what was going on, until we actually got in the theater and started watching the film. But this was different. This was characters I knew. These were characters that had been around all of my life. And I was like, oh boy, a big screen movie with Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy. And won't this be terrific? And then we get Star Trek, the motion picture. Yeah. Okay. This is not going to be a hit piece, so don't worry about it. But, see, like I mentioned, Star Trek had always been part of my life. Star Trek was always on in reruns on some station where I lived. I remember being a big fan of Star Trek, the animated series. And when Star Trek, the motion picture came out, I was completely like, this is going to be awesome. And then the first 5 minutes of the movie, I'm like, what the hell happened to the Klingons? Because they, the forehead ridge and all that stuff like that. And it was like, I'm like, did I go into the wrong movie? Am I in the wrong place? Where am I? What's going on? You'd be amazed how often you say that to yourself as you get older. I'm not saying Star Trek the Motion Picture is a bad movie. I am definitely not saying that. It has some very interesting ideas. And there are some fan theories from that movie that I'm like, wow, I could totally see that happening. But there are parts of that movie that I was like, what happened to the uniforms? Why is everything kind of a pastel beigey kind of, I'm not nutty about this. I was just that I was not crazy with, and I'm still not. But I thought it was a good movie. I thought there were a lot of really interesting, fascinating parts to it. And still a hardcore Trekker. But I do remember being like, this shouldn't feel unfamiliar. It should feel like I'm sitting with old friends and enjoying being around people that I've been around all my life. And after a while the film went on, I did feel like that. But there were a couple of points that I was like, did something get said and I missed it? Like when Lieutenant Ilea is boarding the Enterprise and Uhura tells Kirk, and she's also like, she's a Deltan. And they make, you get these looks from the crew and to each other and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there going, did I miss a line? Did something happen and I missed it? Because I don't know why her being a Deltan is a big deal. I'm lost again. Damn it. And of course we found out later in like novelizations and also extended cuts and stuff like that, what the deal is with Deltans and all that stuff. And like I said, it's a great movie. It's got some really interesting kickoff points for some fan theories, which I'm not going to go into because I don't want Paramount coming down on my sweet little head or on Terrence's sweet little feathered nog. So we'll just leave it there. And now I would like to talk about the music of the 70s. There was a lot of amazing music from the 70s. You had bands like Kiss, and Aerosmith, Alice Cooper, all this incredible rock music. And you also had disco. Now, I know some people just cowered behind blast shields or jump behind the couch or whatever because they think, oh, crap, here it comes. She's going to go full Godzilla on the whole disco experience, and she's going to, Godzilla, atomic breath, everything about disco because she's a metalhead and all that. I am a metalhead. Tink, tink. No, not that kind. But I like to, now that I'm older and I'd say wiser, but I like you guys and I don't really want to lie to your face. Older and more thoughtful about what I say, put it that way. I'm a music person. I love music. I love all kinds of music, with the exception of that Lou Reed album that was all metal noise. Oh my gosh, that hurt. That was painful. Terrence agrees with that. Everything else by Lou Reed was amazing. If you're into that, but that album hurt. But I will be honest and look into this camera right now and say, not all of disco music was bad. Some of the music that is classified as disco is actually quite nice. It's quite good. If I was a person that could dance and didn't look like the hippopotamus from Fantasia, I'd probably dance, except for the fact that I don't. I have the rhythm of a kumquat, and I just am really bad and reduced more than one choreographer to tears in college. So some people have one gift and some people have many. And one of my many gifts is not dancing and knowing that I don't dance well. So I don't go out there and make an ass of myself. I find other ways to make an ass of myself. But a lot of disco songs are really good. What the issue was because I was not one of those people wearing a shirt that says disco sucks or F disco and stuff like that, because they did exist because I saw them. Because for one thing, my parents were both like, you can't wear stuff like that. There's no reason to be. My parents were both very much, they weren't the what will the neighbors think people. My parents were both definitely like, there's no reason to piss people off just because you don't like something. You don't like it, don't listen to it. But you don't have to go and piss on somebody else's stuff. Both my parents had that attitude. And I think it's a good attitude to have, really. But I was around a lot of teenagers who probably would have beat the ever-loving crap out of little me if I said that I liked disco, so I kept my mouth shut. Which is really weird, because one of the biggest stations in the state at the time was a disco station, WXKS-FM. Kiss FM. That was their big thing, that they were the disco station. And there were discos in Boston, but when you're a little kid from the suburbs, Boston seems ages away. Especially when you don't drive. And actually driving in Boston back then, I would have rather have dropped a bowling ball on my foot. But the thing that I realize now that I didn't really realize then, because I did have a lot of people, older kids and stuff, that, disco sucks. They're all snobs. They're all druggies. They're all this, that, and the other thing, blah, blah, blah. And the music's crap. It's all repetitive stuff, and there's no soul behind it, and blah, 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 and all that. And as I got older and I looked at, videos and stuff like that, and film of the 70s and the whole disco scene, I realized what I disliked wasn't the music. It was the attitude. The attitude that you could have a club where someone stands outside and says, you and you can come in, but you don't look cool enough to come in. You can't come in. And I'm sorry, but isn't this still America? As long as somebody's old enough to be in a place like that, and they don't have a chainsaw on them or something like that, let them in. It was the exclusivity aspect of disco, the disco culture, that I didn't like. And I found it was arrogant and stuff like that. But there is some disco that is actually really good. And there's still some disco around today. They just call it dance music or, other stuff. But it's still basically disco. And I know some people are like, all disco songs are the same. I'm like, have you ever listened to certain other genres? A lot of other genres, the songs aren't the same. They don't sound the same, but they cover the same material. Partying, being in a relationship, being out of a relationship. That could be one genre. And another genre could be about beer and cars and trucks and ladies and not having ladies and wanting ladies and stuff like that. Notice I'm not saying which genre is what, because I don't need angry emails telling me that I'm dogging on whomever or whatever. I don't need it. But there are some songs that are qualified, and artists that people are like, well, they just did disco. No, they didn't. They're singers. They're singers first. One of them being an amazing singer and very heavily identified with the disco era was Donna Summer. And Donna Summer was an amazing singer, and anybody who tells you that she wasn't is full of it. And a lot of her songs are songs that are considered disco songs. Bad Girls. I just had another The Last Dance. Hot Stuff. A lot of those are considered disco songs, and they're really good songs. Although Bad Girls does give me flashbacks to going to the roller rink, because it always seemed like when we went to the roller rink, they played that song. And you want to see something more awkward than me dancing? Me on roller skates, which is really weird because when I was a kid, I could ice skate. I could ice skate fine. I mean, nobody was going to put me in the Olympics or anything like that, but I didn't fall on my face every 5 seconds, unlike when I went roller skating, which I was really, really bad at. And every time we went to the local roller rink, it always seemed like at some point or another, toot toot, hey, beep beep, that would start all the time, every single time, which I'm like, I mean, it actually is a kind of a cool song to roller skate too, really. But yeah, some disco, not all of it, I'll be the first to admit it, but some disco is not bad. Some of it's pretty cool. Some of it's pretty nice, fun to listen to. Do I think the disco sucks movement went a little overboard? Yeah. I think it got a little bit crazy. I mean, you had the whole incident in Chicago in Comiskey Park or Comiskey Field or whatever it's called, where they took a bunch of disco records and blew them up. Wow. Okay. So, you couldn't just not buy my whole thing was, you had to buy those records, didn't you? So you're giving more money to the record company so you can destroy the records? The 70s was also the decade I realized most adults just didn't know what the hell they were doing. I've pretty much kept that attitude since I've become an adult myself. I don't know what the hell I'm doing most of the time, but I look cute while I'm doing it. What are some of your favorite memories from the 70s? If you have some, or like I said, if you don't remember much of it, I would love to know. platinumroselle@yahoo.com. If you have any questions, comments, queries, complaints, money, send them my way. If you could please leave a comment, and if you could definitely leave a like and subscribe to our little happy old podcast here, and also to all the other great podcasts we have on our little island of misfit toys. One of them being AM 70s, which is one of TC's shows where he plays all kinds of great 70s music. He's also got Friday Night Hair Salon, which is all metal and hard rock and stuff like that, which is awesome. He also does Daily Obscuria every day, except on the weekends. And he has all these other amazing channels and more coming up, hopefully, because he works on them so hard. And that is going to do it here for another week on Kim Takes On. So I hope everybody has an amazing week out there. And this is Kim, and this is Terrence, and we're signing off, and we're saying, have a great week, keep on rocking, and keep on trucking.